Okay, great. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for our Sustainable Living Series webinar. The Sustainable Living Series introduces Nicole Fowler, Associate Director of Procurement Operations and Strategic Sourcing, as well as Shelley Rizzo, Procurement Specialist. This session focuses on sustainable procurement practices at the university. And now, without further ado, please welcome today's presenters, Nicole Fowler and Shelley Rizzo.
Perfect. Thanks, Marlo. I'm looking at the participants and I recognize most of the names, so this is great. Feels like lots of friends in the room, so thank you. So welcome. Shelley and I are here to present to you on sustainable procurement practices. We're so pleased to be invited to do this, so thank you for having us. Before we get started, Shelley, I'm going to ask you to do a land acknowledgement, please.
Sure. I would like to acknowledge that I am situated on traditional Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee territory. As a white settler, I am grateful to be able to live and work on this land as an uninvited guest. It is imperative that we all recognize the significance and roots of Kingston's Indigenous community, which includes Métis as well as First Peoples from other nations. I recognize that I play a role in truth and reconciliation and will do my part in contributing to that by listening and learning from Indigenous experiences and voices whenever I can. I would ask that you consider doing the same.
Thanks, Shelley. So I think we probably can be very brief on who we are, but I am Nicole Fowler. I'm the Associate Director in Procurement, looking after the Procurement Operations team and Strategic Sourcing as well. And so Shelley and I are going to both be going back and forth today presenting. So Shelley, I'll let you introduce yourself.
I'm Shelley Rizzo. I'm a procurement specialist, and I've been here at Queen's for, it's almost my 4-year anniversary. Feels like forever. In a good way.
I was going to say, you better say it a good way.
In a good way. Of course, in a good way, in a great way.
Perfect. Okay. So our agenda today is we're just going to go over a few things, and we're going to let everybody know what our team looks like, and because this is all about, it's not just about strategic sourcing. Our ops team is also involved in sustainable practices as well. We're going to talk about social procurement at Queen's, and we have a social procurement program in place that we have sustainability a part of. So we're going to talk about that, some preferred supplier programs that encourage sustainability practices. And we're going to talk about our specific practices that we do in our department. We also thought, because we're talking about procurement and purchasing, we'll mention some ways that you can maybe think about personal purchasing. And then we'll leave with some information sources and contact information. And as Marlo mentioned, we will have a formal Q&A at the end. I do want to mention too that this is a process that we're working on. By no means do we think that strategic procurement is at the top of our game in sustainability. There's lots more that we can do. But we're like, this is a starting process, right? And so there are things that we are doing. There are things that we could do more of, or implement, or do better of. So we are learning, and at any opportunity trying to incorporate more around sustainability into our procurement practices. So I want everybody to keep that in mind, that this is a work in progress. By no means do we say we are leading the way on this. We are not, but there are some things that we are doing and we are celebrating, and there's lots more that we can do in this space as well. Okay. So just to give you an idea of what our team looks like, we're a team of almost 20. We're currently recruiting for a specialist, but we have the strategic sourcing side of the house, which is really being responsible for running RFXs over $100,000. They also are responsible for reviewing all purchases that are over $10,000 for the university. So we have a team of 6, sorry, I can't count today clearly. So we have a mix of specialists and buyers. I'm not going to go over everybody's name, but I will just mention all this information is on our website as well. We also are responsible for postal services as well for the university. So we have a team of 3 there. And then we also have our operations team, which consists of accounts payable, our systems, which is Acquire, as our main system. We have some other systems that we're responsible for as well, along with our business services and logistics team. So as I said, we're about a team of 20. For our size university, we are quite a good sized team. So anyway. Okay, Shelley, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Awesome. Social procurement. You can bop to the next one, Nicole. So what does social procurement to Queens mean? So social procurement is a process whereby organizations meet their needs for goods or services while achieving value for money and generating benefits to the organization, the society, and the economy while minimizing damage to the environment. It is about capturing those impacts and seeking to make intentional, very important, intentional, positive contributions to both the broader economy and the overall vibrancy of the community. So that's kind of long-winded, but I think it's important to know, as Nicole was saying, this is something we're working on. Even on the weekend, I was trying to think, we need to come up with what our ultimate goals are, what kind of things would be measurable so that we can tell how we're doing in this space. We just don't have a ton of time, which we don't have a Nathan, we don't have a Linwin, we don't have all of these experts sitting on our team right now. So we need to do the best we can. We're participating in webinars, lots of workshops, but we will be reaching out when the time comes, when time allows, so that we can really, really figure out where it is we're going so that we can make a path to get there. The next slide, Nicole. So social procurement. So I was actually just sitting in, half listening on a webinar that was talking about sustainable procurement, and under sustainable, they kind of talk about all of these other types of things. To us, it kind of fits under the social procurement umbrella. But what's most important is we are touching on a bunch of different things within this space. So supply chain diversity, we've really made some strides in that department. Probably next week, we'll be launching a revised website on social procurement, specifically around supply chain diversity. We've done a lot of research, met with a lot of different organizations, and have developed some really great data banks of diverse suppliers, people who meet that criteria. So that's going to be amazing for our Queens community. I'll go backwards from sustainability because that's where we're going to land. Accessibility, we've kind of been working in that space for quite a while now. Even in my previous position at the City of Kingston, accessibility was kind of highlighted and brought to the forefront through some legislation. And with that, in order to highlight accessibility in our RFP documents, RFX documents, we kind of built in some criteria, not to say it's only 2 points important or 2% important, but just to make sure people are seeing it. Truth and reconciliation, so the Indigenous community. So we're working with that within supply chain diversity to make sure that that's a group that we're not missing. We always try and say that with diverse suppliers, it's not to say that we want to give them a leg up. We're trying to give them an advantage. We're just trying to make sure they are, to the best of our ability, no longer disadvantaged. We're trying to reach out and meet those groups, meet those suppliers to make sure they know how to work with us. Nicole mentioned, did you mention, Nicole, that we were doing these how to do business with Queens workshops?
I did before everybody logged in.
Oh, so we're doing that, but we are also doing some of those sessions specifically with diverse organizations, so that even if they're not submitting to some of our high dollar RFPs, there's a lot of money to be made with things under $100,000 as well. And maybe that's a market we can really grasp, and we can really kind of make some inroads and throw some work that way for experience purposes and just to broaden our horizons. Sustainability. That's kind of why we're here today. Again, as Nicole said, we have a lot of work to do here. That being said, we are, to the best of our ability, again, trying to incorporate it where we can. So we are CCSP is the workshop I just came out of or listened in on. They're working with the UPMA, so with our university group, just to try and bring to light some different topics monthly. Today, it was about sustainability within service provision. So what kind of things can we be asking for with services? Because oftentimes people think, oh, no, it doesn't have anything to do with services. It has to do with everything. Like we're leaving a mark on everything we do. So we want to figure out how to incorporate that into our practices here at Queen's and into what we're buying. And we want the companies we're working with to also be thinking about it. You can bop to the next slide, Nicole. Sustainable procurement attempts to also evaluate other extrinsic elements and costs that involve environmental, social, and economic impacts. I don't know everybody on the call today, but what we're trying to say is it's not always all about the money. Money is very near and dear to my heart, and we hear a lot about it these days. We hear a lot about budget restrictions, about our revenues have gone down. But even when we're buying, kind of just like you would do at home, you have to often think about things outside of that cost or what you're getting for that cost that might be important. And a lot of that is around sustainability and the impact things are having on our environment. Total cost of ownership. No big surprise here. So when we're buying something, it's not about just the cost of the equipment, the cost of everything that goes with the equipment for the lifetime of the equipment. So cost of installation, the energy it's going to consume, maintenance and repair costs, cost of recycling, cost of disposing, all of those things kind of need to be considered when we're buying something. Nicole popped all of these in for us. There are so many different certifications. So lots of them that have to do with, I think these ones are all food related, food and beverage related. We had these and we've saved all of these because we'll need to work with the sustainability group to figure out which ones we need, which ones are acceptable, which ones aren't inadvertently perhaps excluding some of our smaller local suppliers because they are beneficial to us for an enormous amount of reasons and we want them and it's easier for them to get to us, but we want to not make our restrictions so strict that maybe they can't afford or don't have the resources to get some of these certifications. So it really is, it's a project in itself. Other universities, I think Andy's on the call, so I'll say it out loud. Other universities have teams dedicated to this, and we just don't have that capacity right now to be able to fully understand what it is we need, what is sufficient for the university, and we'll need the university to come up with some of those decisions, which will filter down to our sustainability group, which will kind of filter down to us saying, at minimum, this is what we need, those types of things.
Well, Shelley, I'm just going to add to this too. So the next couple of slides here show a number of eco labels. We belong to an association called UTMA, which is the Ontario University's Professional Procurement Management Association. So it's all of our Ontario universities. They actually have put together a sustainability committee that is helping. So to Shelley's point, there's a few universities that actually have people hired in their procurement departments to look after the specific initiative, but unfortunately there's only a few of them like that. So our Association of Ontario Universities in Procurement have put together a sustainability group who actually has provided this information and has asked us to start looking at these eco labels and putting them in wherever possible, and has provided us with a guideline as to what do they mean, when they would be appropriately used, and that sort of thing.
Awesome.
Okay. Oh, and now it's over to me. So we do have some preferred supplier programs in place that we wanted to draw your attention to. And actually, if you come to 355 King Street, you'll be actually greeted by some of these boxes at the entrance. But essentially, we have zero waste boxes. They're tetracycle recycling programs, and it's something that we can access through our Grand and Toy contract. Also, VWR offers some of these as well. These are all catalog items in Acquire that departments can purchase. So what it is, it's a box that you can purchase, and you put whatever the item is that the box is deemed for into that. And then once it's full, it's shipped back to Granite Toy, who then looks after the recycling of it. So we have that for the K-cups, which I know originally were not very recyclable, but now there's this option that you can use this. Another one is the office supplies too. So like, there's lots of things that we go to that we have as office supplies, like pens and everything else that can be broken down and recycled. And so this waste box, you throw those items in there, and again, it gets shipped back to Granite Toy, who looks after the recycling of that. So that way we recycled every piece of that we can. So instead of just putting them in our waste baskets, there's options for it to be recycled. There's other options too, like recycling of masks that we've all been having to wear. Oh, sorry, I have to admit a few other people here.
I think you should probably talk about this building itself. Nathan's probably, oh, like, it's geothermal. Say something about the building. This is the first.
That's right.
It is actually pretty cool.
It is a very cool building. But I will mention too, like so masks, safety glasses and equipment, candy and snack wrappers are also another option that you can get one of these boxes for, and batteries. So there's some options on how to recycle. But to Shelley's point, and I'm sure that Nathan can talk a bit more about this because he's more intimately involved or understands this better, but there has been some really sustainable practices that have been applied at 355 King. So yeah. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to mention too is that preferred suppliers. So furniture. I know Linwin's on the call as well, and Linwin is great about letting the community know about furniture that's being that a department has decided to get rid of. And there's options for other departments to pick it up at no cost to them and reuse that piece of furniture. I know our friends down in facilities on the second floor of this building reused a lot of our furniture that we had at Rizzo. So there's lots of options that way, that instead of going out and buying new things, there is options for you to pick up some secondhand furniture, shall we say, that's still in great shape. The other thing is that the furniture suppliers that we deal with, the reason why there's many reasons why we encourage and strongly, I shouldn't say suggest, we make very few exceptions for furniture purchases, but essentially the furniture suppliers that we have on our preferred supplier programs have products that can be broken down and reused multiple times. So the thing is that when we buy furniture, essentially this furniture will outlast our taste, is what it comes down to, right? Because the way that it's made, it's made to meet a number of specifications like fire protection, weight, everything else, but it's also intended to be able to be reused and repurposed in other ways. So the thing is that it might look like an L-shaped desk one time, it might look like a standalone desk in another office, right? So the thing is that the furniture that we have is actually reusable, right? So when you buy furniture from, say, I'm going to say IKEA or Wayfair, its ability to be broken down and reused only is for 1 or 2, maybe 3 times if you're lucky. But the idea is that once it's set up and in use, it's not intended to be broken down and reused over and over again. And that's an important piece, right? Because we want to make sure that the materials that are going into our furniture are sustainable, but also that we are able to reuse this. It's not just sort of like a one-time use piece of furniture, but it has many lives that it can have, right? Also to multifunction devices. So I didn't tell you how long I've been at Queen's, but I've almost got 19 years at Queen's. And I remember everybody when I started at Queen's having a personal printer on their desk to use. We strongly discourage that for a number of reasons. They're costly to run. And also too, and Nathan will be like, yes, Nicole, promote the fact that we shouldn't have so much paper on campus. So, but the thing is that there is a need for some things to be printed. Some departments do require that. And these multifunction devices have a much better use than somebody's personal printer on there, right? And so the fact is that they have multi uses. You're not having to buy a fax machine, a scanner, and a printer. It's all in one. The cost per printing is a lot cheaper and such. So if you do have a need to be printing, a multifunction device is the way to go. We never encourage personal printers. It should not be used. And then office supplies too, and I'm going to show you later on, but there's lots of options in our office supplies and paper products to be purchasing green products or recyclable products. And it's actually shows that classification rate in our acquire system so that you know when you're purchasing something that you're actually making a decision to purchase recycled items or green options. So a couple other things that we do take into consideration or that are available on our preferred supplier programs that we have.
You should talk about delivery there with office supplies, only because it's been
yes, thank you for that. That was what my note was that I couldn't make out. Yes. So the other thing that we do too is that part of our contract, and our team is actually reviewing this and making sure that the community is following this. But to ensure that there's not multiple deliveries coming to campus from, say, Grandin Toy or Staples, the minimum order needs to be at least $50 so that one day you don't say, oh, I need a package of pens that are $5. And the following day, oh, I need a package of paper. And they're coming multiple times and the admissions and transportation of those goods. So essentially what we're trying to say is when you place an order, make sure that you're placing an order for all the things that you need to make it a worthwhile. And the other thing is too, is that our providers are trying to only come on select days. So that way they're not coming to campus every day, right? So the idea is to have less traffic delivering products. We're asking people to think ahead as to what they need. Okay, thank you for that reminder, Shelley. Okay, so some practices some strategic procurement sustainable practices. So I've mentioned about Acquire. For those of you that don't know what Acquire is, it's our procure to pay system. So everything to do with procurement or invoicing. So if you need to pay an invoice or you need to order something that you need a purchase order for, you need to go into Acquire. And so Acquire, we are so proud, April 30th, 2020, we eliminated all paper processes because of the efficiencies of Acquire. So Acquire is a completely paperless system that we use. We do not process paper for it. Invoices are electronic, everything. So there is no paper processing at all. Everything in Acquire is electronic. So I'm just going to highlight a few things here. So in Acquire, we have what we call catalog suppliers. So we have roughly 20 catalog suppliers. And the idea is that it's kind of like an Amazon experience, right? That you can go and pick what you need with these catalog suppliers. So again, no quote needs to happen. It's all done in the system. When I mentioned too, when you're ordering from these preferred suppliers, you can actually, like say you search, like here I searched for paper. And when it came up, it gave me filters that I can actually select. So if I wanted to make sure that I was picking green or recycled products, I can actually filter on that so that it only shows me paper products that meet green or recycled options. So it allows our community to make informed decisions when they're making their purchases. Shelley, did I miss anything there?
I don't think so.
I'm all nervous I'm missing something, so.
Oh, don't worry, I'll interrupt.
I know. The other thing, now, there have been some perhaps challenges of the pandemic, but there's also been some things that have been positive out of the pandemic. And one of them is that it forced us, not that we didn't want to do it, but there was maybe a bit of a culture about actually physically signing paper contracts. Now we no longer have paper contracts. They all go through Adobe Sign. It eliminates paper, which is great, but it also is a time saver for us too. So that's something that, so all our contracts are electronic. It's also helped us reduce the amount of filing that we have, actual physical files here. So when we moved to 355 King Street, we embarked upon a big cleanup file project to get rid of all the paper that we could and then store what we had to retain for the 7-year period. But we are quite happy that we've got a few years of waiting before we can destroy some files, but we have moved to completely electronic filing, which is great. We do also have in the Acquire system, we don't need to keep invoices in Acquire. So we've gotten permission to that any invoices that sit in Acquire can actually be destroyed because the official record is the Acquire record. So that's quite helpful. The other thing is too, is that we meet with the pandemic. We haven't met with some of our preferred suppliers as often as we typically do, but those things are starting to happen again. But with our preferred suppliers, especially, procurement meets with them. And part of we do a semi-annual review with them, but they will actually go over their sustainable practices. They will provide us with reports on sustainability in their organizations, but they'll also talk about the products that we're buying from them. So essentially to encourage us to think about other products that we could be purchasing that would contribute to green initiatives or recycling options, right? So those are things that we are made aware of. If we see that there's certain departments that aren't making those kind of decisions, we will reach out and talk to them about that there's other options for them to consider. But those are all things that we are informed about with our suppliers, and we actually require that at a semi-annual review that they do. We are working with actually a number of associations too to look at sustainability. And so part of our Acquire system, which is powered by Jagger. Jagger's partnered with a number of third-party providers, and there's some options there. I don't want to speak too much to them because we're still in the beginning stages of that, but there are some options there. And the other thing that we're looking at is within our Acquire tool set, the supplier manager piece. Right now, we've actually implemented an IEDIAA section for suppliers to complete to let us know if they're a diverse or Indigenous supplier, but we are also looking at sustainability and how we can capture that in. So I will be talking to our friend Nathan about that down the road, but we've got some options on that to make sure that we're collecting certain certificates and we'll make them viewable by the community too. So it allows the community to make informed decisions about the suppliers that they're choosing to do business with. So again, work in progress, but lots of things that we are able to do in this system that will help our community in this space. Okay. So some tendering practices that we do. So wherever possible, we do think about sustainability and where it fits and should it be considered in an RFP process, or we call it RFX because there's sometimes where it's a request for supplier qualifications. So anyhow, so we do, and we're teasing Nathan quite a bit, but we see Nathan on some of these RFPs. So one of the big ones is food services that was done in 2019 with a new provider that rolled out in, I think, July of 2020 that year, or maybe September. But anyhow, so Nathan was a huge help in that area to make sure that sustainable practices were considered in that particular RFP. And it actually had quite a focus in that RFP. The other big one that we're working on right now is cold beverages and vending. And again, Nathan is along for the ride with us. So another big one that we're doing as well. The other thing I would mention too is that there's times when we are looking at purchasing research equipment, that if there is an option for so say essentially a researcher's deciding to upgrade or get a new piece of equipment that does a similar thing that they already have, there's an option for them to write that into the RFP, that the expectation is that whoever's awarded this contract would take back that piece of equipment and recycle it for us, or take it back, reuse it, refurbish it for another purpose. But that's another option that we can do as well. I should have actually moved the cold beverage and vending to current because it's currently in place. It hasn't been completed as of yet. But I know Nathan and our Pat Fisher are working on a carbon net zero campus plan RFP as well. We're also, there's Shelley, I think you know more about this, but the helium recycler, which are the two departments that are looking at that one?
So basically it'll be used by, it's physics initiating it, but they've pulled in chemistry, and then there's biology, there's other teams on campus that will use it as well. It's not called a helium recycler. That's what I called it because that's what makes sense to me. And it's amazing because it's so hard to source helium right now when this one's been on the back burner forever. And I actually reached out to them like, are we going to do this? Are we going to do this? And finally we're doing it. We're just kind of in negotiations through it right now. But it's very, very exciting to be able to do something like that where we're repurposing our own and being able to supply ourselves. Very cool.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing is fleet vehicles. So I know facilities has the very first electric van on campus. It was actually something that procurement was offered first, but it's a little bit too big for our use. And so we let our friends in facilities know about it, and they actually purchased that. The idea is that vehicle fleet will actually be electric here in the next couple of years. Unfortunately, the availability of supply for electric is a little bit down, but we have gone out with an RFP. It has been put on hold just due to some budgetary concerns, but essentially that RFP was written with electric as the main focus and requirement of that. I would also mention too that we have also where Andy Green, who's on the call here, our director, he looks after all things where people want to sell or give away equipment. Maybe it's research equipment or whatever. And so we do encourage that too, because if it can have a second life somewhere else, that's just a great benefit, especially too, there's some departments that have more money than other departments. And if they can, instead of, tossing away a piece of equipment, if somebody else could have an opportunity to reuse that would be great as well. And I already talked about furniture. I don't know why I put it in my speaking notes here. Shelley, is there anything else?
No, just again, that we do think about it with all our X's that we put out, just how much we highlight it or what types of things we ask for are varied.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So how can you change your personal purchases, right? And what are some things that you could think about doing instead of always buying new? And I will admit, buying is part of me. So sometimes it's hard for me to think about things differently, but there's some great options these days. So if you have things that you want to get rid of, selling them on Kijiji or Facebook is a great option. I've given away a lot of things over that too. Like, it has a second life. I don't feel like I should make any money off of it. I'll put it out there for somebody else to take for free. Or of course, if there's some things that are of value, you can sell them. But then also too, there is things that when you go to look for something new, maybe check out Facebook or Kijiji for purchasing. For example, everybody bought a pile of stuff during COVID related to exercise equipment. And I have a 16-year-old that wants to work out more. So I've been checking out Facebook and Kijiji to increase his gym instead of paying full price for this. And to be frank, I cannot believe how much of the stuff is in such like brand new shape, and they're just getting rid of it, right? So A, you can save yourself some money, and B, you, instead of buying something new, you can actually repurpose or reuse something. I love to shop for clothes. So Vinted and Poshmark, I don't know if you guys are aware of those, but they're fantastic. And they're like a consignment shop. but people can sell their clothes or sell their items or accessories or whatever. I'm going to tell you, like Poshmark, I've walked away with a ton of great things that are like name brand items. But again, somebody's just gotten bored of it. And instead of like tossing it out, they're reselling it and you're getting to reuse something. Thrift shops are another great thing. I also like to repurpose furniture. And so I find some great deals that it's fun that you can be creative and repurpose a piece of furniture. And frankly, that's actual wood and not press board. But you can do lots of great things like that. So just giving items, goods, a second life is something to think about. Instead of just always buying new, is there something that you can purchase, make it your own? But you're not buying something new, right? You're actually reusing something. And the other thing is too, is that we're just talking about shopping local, and shopping local does have many great benefits. And you're not buying and having it transported all over the place. You're helping local people, like moms and pop shops and things like that. But there's great benefits to shopping local, even like, the farmers market and things like that. You're supporting small businesses. Shelley?
For sure. No, same, but even some of the same things that we're talking about with in the workspace, where Nicole was saying, like with your office supplies, like if it's very easy, I find, to lay in bed and add to cart, but collect those things over time. If you do have to buy them that way or feel like you have to buy them that way, let them add up and then have them delivered once instead of 6 deliveries throughout the week. And with the shopping local, same thing. When you're adding it to your cart through some of the big places that most of us tend to buy from, think about whether or not you can maybe get it here. In public procurement, we're under such strict legislation. There's a lot of guidelines around what local is and around what we can and cannot do. We can't discriminate geographically, so we have to be able to shop anywhere in the world. So in my personal life, I do try and take advantage of being able to shop local when I can. Just think about the ethical implication of what you might be leaving behind too. When you click that add to cart, think about where it is you're buying from. Mm-hmm. Do a little bit of research.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And then just leaving you here with some of the ways that you can talk to us about these things, right? So we have a lot of information on our website. We are consistently updating it. There is actually going to be a new updated social procurement section put on our website here probably in the next week. And as we do more in this space, we will constantly add it to our website. But we have lots of great information on our website. And there's lots around what we talked about today available on the website. Also too, like when we do new things, when there's new options out there or anything that we can communicate out to our community, we put it out for our acquire listserv. And then if you have specific questions about, I put down accounts payable just because of the invoicing piece of it. So if you are getting paper invoices and then scanning them and sending them into us, reach out to our team about making that supplier electronically send that into us. Also the acquire team, if there's some things that you don't understand or you'd like to be able to see that we've talked about today, reach out to them. They're a great support team. And then I've also mentioned about sourcing. So if you're looking at purchasing something and you want to make sure that you're thinking about sustainability, reach out to our team. We're here to help you. Okay. And good news, we're at the Q&A portion of our presentation.
Questions?
Marlo?
Sorry, I'm just coming back. That was great. If anyone has any questions, you can just put it in the chat and I can read them out, or you can just unmute yourself and ask them. Nathan?
Oh, Nathan's going to put us on the spot.
I always love to do this to presenters, so. No, I kid. Do you find, what's your opinion, I guess, or what do you find the state of education of the people that are coming to engage with procurement are on sustainable procurement. Do you find this is something people are aware of, or is there still more to be done on sort of creating understanding around circular economy and sustainable procurement? Or do you find that some of the interactions that you have with your clients are actually, you know, showcasing some education and awareness?
So depending on how we answer this, Nathan, does this put work on your team or on our team? I actually think I'll give my opinion, and then maybe Shelley, you want to weigh in. I think there's definitely a change, Nathan, on our clients and what they're asking about, right? And so with an idea of them thinking about these things, right? So I think as there's more like what your team does in educating and getting things out, I think it's making people think more about the purchases that you make. I think that there's a lot of a shift in our media and everything else that's putting a focus on this that I think is helping our clients think about that. Is it always front of mind? I'm not going to say yes, but I think that they're thinking about it more and more and more. I think that it just like diverse suppliers and Indigenous suppliers, the talk is out there and people are starting to think and starting to want to act upon it. So is there more we can do? Absolutely. I think there's more education, more communication that we could be doing, but I do think that there's more people asking and looking for making sure that they're making choices that are taking into consideration exactly that sustainability, diverse suppliers, Indigenous suppliers, that sort of thing. So I think that they're trying to make sure that they're making more socially conscious decisions about the procurements that they do here for the campus. Shelley?
I think so too. I think everybody, like when I think about it, it's like, yes, I need to do this. But then the question is how, like, or what do I ask for? I know I want to be better. I know I want to learn more, and I know I want to incorporate it, but how is probably, so doing exactly what you're doing, getting out there, even if we were to run some specific ones, or maybe in our tips and tricks kind of thing, to kind of pinpoint, here's what it is you should look for when you're buying a piece of equipment, or here's what it is you should look for with construction, where like just kind of pinpointing so that we know what it is we should incorporate.
Well, and I think too, like, I think during the pandemic, and I'm just talking sort of like, I think it was generally, everybody was like trying to get their hands on certain things, right? And I think we're now sort of stopping and going, do I really need that, right? Like I look, and as I get older, I think I have a lot of things. Do I really need all these things? Do I need to buy more things? And I think that just thinking about that personally, and I think looking about, we worked from home and we didn't have all these things that we would have had in the office. Do we really need to have them moving forward?
No, I definitely, we've simplified. I think, you know, all of our offices are a lot more empty than they ever used, which is an interesting outcome. Do you have a sense for, I guess, what's the in general? So one of the main ways I guess people are buying things are through the Acquire site, right? Which has a lot of sort of like options that are already sort of like priced and set up, and it's more like a shopping environment, I guess, right? Which makes sense. In general, how much do you find of the volume of the work that you're doing is going through that system versus through more like custom procurement solutions?
Well, so because we only have about roughly 20 catalogs there too, and there's only certain things that we can offer there, right? The bulk of our purchasing is what we call non-catalog, right? So it's not through that system. And the other thing is too, is that we have to make sure that we have contracts in place, and not everything that we do under our preferred suppliers are actual things that we can load into the system. So again, I talk about furniture just because I know furniture inside out. I've done it so many years. But the thing is that we put things into our catalog for furniture that are popular items, meet the specifications of the university, quick ship, that sort of things, but we can't put everything that a supplier has that they could potentially provide to us in that catalog, just because essentially we negotiate to say these items that are in catalog need to be shipped out within, like for furniture, it's within, I think, 5 business days. So the thing is that we can't put everything in and expect them to be able to have these in their warehouses ready to ship, that sort of thing. So we have to be mindful of that. So we've done it where we have these catalog options that where they make sense. These are options that people can purchase, but there is quite a bit that actually runs through the non-catalog process.
Which is still acquired though.
It's still acquired, yeah.
You know that. It's still, so if you want to buy something and you have to pay for it, it has to go through either acquire or it goes on a procurement card, P card, a Visa. So there's those 2 methods. So if we wanted to pull categories and stuff, we can do all of that on the acquire spend, which is most of the spend.
Yeah.
But only some things are actually in a click catalog kind of thing, like a shopping cart.
Yeah.
I see Lindman's put a thing in the chat. Marley, were you gonna?
Yeah. She's asked here, is there a possibility of including a life cycle analysis section in universities' RFPs for suppliers to demonstrate the cradle to grave impact of their products?
I'm thinking that you and Nathan talk quite a bit, because that's what we were putting into the cold beverage and vending one. So it's something, yes, that we're introducing in the cold beverage and vending. And we start somewhere and just build upon that. So Linwin, the short answer is yes. We are trying it right now, and Nathan has been at the forefront of encouraging that.
We just sat in I sat through the Housing and Ancillaries monthly sustainability working group, and it was interesting because they were talking about using there's a protocol called the World Resources Institute, and they're actually ranking meals. So they have a sustainability ranking that is sort of tied to the carbon footprint of the sourcing, producing, and actually making the food and getting it to the plate. So it is interesting. There's a lot more metrics that are being developed so that you can analyze the sustainability and compare alternatives. So that life cycle analysis component is something that I think we'll see more and more companies recognize that, buyers and purchasers are interested to know. And
Yeah.
So that'll be really interesting to see how that develops over the years.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
But very excited that we're going to put it into the cold beverage one. That'll be, I think it'll be interesting to see the data, and it'll give us some really, it'll give us something to make decision points on, which you wouldn't otherwise have, which would be neat.
Awesome.
I'll stop.
I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat.
We were nervous about you, Nathan. What is he going to throw at us?
Nah.
If
I'll
there's no
actually
more
stop sharing so
questions,
that you can see faces.
Oh.
There we go.
nice.
Mhm.
I can always wait a minute if anyone has any burning questions. If not, I'm sure they can just email you or reach out.
Mhm.
That's all
For
good.
sure.
Yeah, send them on to Shelley.
Okay. Okay.
I'll move to Andy. Thanks for having us.
Yes.
Yes. Huge thank you to the both of you for coming out today, and everyone for coming. Most people who registered participated today, which is great.
Oh, good.
Good kickoff session.
And Marlo, when's our next session? It's the
It's November 3rd, but we might move it because that's Thrive Week.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on.
and the topic is.
It was going to be home energy efficiency with Dave Garish, but we might move that. We'll see.
Dave might be talking about his heat pump acquisition for his own home, but or any of you that are homeowners, there's always some really good tips and tricks that Dave presents on efficiency and
Yeah.
saving bucks. And with the price of everything these days, it might be a well rewarding session. So
Mhm.
we'll send out those dates and keep an eye out, I think, right, Marlo?
Yeah.
Okay,
Good one.
great.
Okay, well, without any more questions,
I'll stop
Um,
recording this, Marlo.
yeah, that's a good idea.